So I wanted, before we get started, to let everyone know that I have a new podcast out, and it's called Meditations. If you like the Meditations segment of this current podcast, you'll like the Meditations podcast. It's nothing but 20 minutes of meditative sounds. And now, on with the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caesar's Palace for 12 rounds of boxing. In the red corner, from Los Angeles, California, wearing the red trunks with the gold trim, weighing in at 125 pounds, the lightweight champion of the world, Danny Little Red Lopez. Well, Bill, our winners get a home theater receiver. That's right. Experience the full potential of high-definition video with this 72-channel digital home theater receiver from Yamaha. But wait, that's not all. They also get a 5.1-channel surround sound system from Mirage. With 5 palm-sized speakers and a compact subwoofer cube, the MX 5.1 brings you huge immersive sound with Mirage's omnipolar technology. All from the Spiegel catalog, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. And they're taking closer order as down the stretch they come. Mr. Hot Stuff has 3 lengths to make up with chocolate candy last. On the rail, take the points behind that gallant son with chocolate candy gaining on the outside. In the lead is Pioneer of the Nile being tackled by chocolate candy. They're neck and neck as they come to the wire. And Pioneer of the Nile holds off chocolate candy and wins the Santa Anita Derby. And now, on your feet, time to greet holder of 14 NBA titles, your home team, your Los Angeles Lakers. Number 3 at 6'8", 5th year out of UCLA, playing forward, Trevor Ariza. Starting at center, number 17 at 7 feet, 4th year out of St. Andrews High School, Andrew Bynum. And at guard, number 24, 6'6", 13th season out of Loyal Marion High School, Kobe Bryant.
I'm intense. Twice I charged a Mountain T-ball.
Good morning. It's Friday, Evil Friday, May the 23rd, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have the headlines, patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, and the marketing of evil. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Thank you, thank you. So here from the American Thinker, some headlines that I want to tinker with. One of them, the first one is called From Blackouts to Breakouts, Trump's Energy Revolution begins, and by Charlton Allen. And it says, after 4 years of energy chaos, President Trump is rebuilding America's strength by unleashing domestic production and reversing Biden's global strategic blunders. And I think that's great, and it's really exciting to hear that. And I certainly wish him all the best, and I hope that it works. But my question is, what happens in 2028? Trump's only going to be here for 4 years, and what happens after that? What about the next, if there's a Republican president in 2028, what is that Republican president going to do? Is he going to continue what it is that Trump's doing? What if we end up with a Democrat in office? Isn't that Democrat then going to go ahead and just simply start reversing or attempting to reverse all of the things that Donald Trump did? And if so, what do we do about it? So that's my concern on that one. Biden's prostate cancer, things don't add up, by a medical doctor named June Depp. What did they know and when did they know it? I don't care. For me, the issue, this is the problem when you live on lies. When you gaslight everybody all the time, nobody believes you about anything anymore. The boy who cried wolf. You have fun jerking people around until all of a sudden you're in real trouble and nobody wants to come to your aid. And that's where it is with Biden's prostate cancer. How can I be sure he really has prostate cancer? We have to take his word for it. And considering his activities over the past 4 years and beyond, his word isn't good for much. Next one, on economics, Trump lurches leftward. What to make of a President Trump call for new taxes, the rich, and advice to Walmart to eat the cost of his tariffs? And the first thing I think of when I hear about this is that people underestimate President Trump and have done so because they fail to see as deep into the position, so to speak, as Donald Trump does. So, for instance, look at the tariffs. I was brought up to believe tariffs are a bad idea because they raise prices. And Donald Trump explained, well, that's if you Mickey Mouse around with them, if you go out and raise tariffs to 10% or 15 or 12 or something like that because you're trying to stay ahead of tariffs from another country and now you're involved in a trade war. He says, yeah, that's a problem. But if you come out and you announce huge tariffs, 50, 60% or more, now what you're doing is you're encouraging the people in other countries to bring their manufacturing to the United States. That creates jobs, that expands our tax base, and makes the country wealthier. And I have a funny feeling that's the same situation here, although it appears to be a leftward lurch on these ideas. I have a funny feeling that Trump knows better, and knows better than Mr. Sullivan, who is the author of this particular article, and probably most everybody else that's watching what he's doing. Next one by Jim Davis, vaccine side effects. Democrats lied, thousands died. COVID vaccines cause myocarditis, which is debilitating and deadly. The Israelis told Team Biden in 2021, and Team Biden kept a lid on. Gee, what a surprise that Team Biden lied and gaslit the American people and the world at large on this particular issue, since that seems to be their MO, their modus operandi. When in doubt, gaslight. Next one, FBI's disgraced Comey peddles ludicrous 8647 explanation and a total low life. There's supposedly a theory out there that 8647 stands for the number of days since 9/11. But that's patently ridiculous, because if that's what Comey meant to represent, then simply he would have put a comma after the 8, and that would have confirmed those suspicions. But he didn't do that. So and since he's a liar anyhow, he's been demonstrated over and over in House hearings to be a liar. I don't believe him anyways. I don't care what he says. 8647 means exactly what it appears to mean. Let's see. Lebanon's Nabi Berri, the perpetual speaker. How Nabi Berri has held Lebanon hostage for over 3 decades while Washington plays along. I don't know anything. I don't know who Nabi Berri is. I don't know what the heck is going on in Lebanon. I don't know if anybody knows what's going on in Lebanon. I went through the Lebanese civil war. I lived through that, and it was chaos in the 70s, and it seems like really little or nothing has changed, that it's just still chaos in Lebanon. And I hear people say it's a tragedy because supposedly Lebanon is a very beautiful place. So anyways, those are the some headlines of articles in the American Thinker. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the political corner.
If we begin with breaking news, federal agents arrest 2 men for a mass shooting in Chicago. One of those arrests happening on the East Coast.
Our Suzanne Lomagno joins us now live from the newsroom with the breaking details. Suzanne?
Joe, Erica, it was a crime that shocked the Chicago Lawn neighborhood. Gunfire killed 3 people and injured 5 others at a birthday party inside a house there. Now, 5 months later, immigration authorities say they captured 2 gunmen. Red crime tape and blue police lights take over a normally quiet residential block.
It's a devastating tragedy that happened.
The alderwoman speaking for the community as a whole at the time.
There were just people who weren't used to that in that community and were really upset by the event.
And now today, Pastor Donovan Price reacting to the news that these 2 men have been arrested by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
And it's good for the city. It's good for the morale of the city to see that tragic events like this in particular can come to a close, can be solved.
On the left, Edward Martinez Cermeño, picked up in January in Schaumburg. On the right, Ricardo Granadillo Padilla, arrested in February in North Carolina.
And that was the political corner. Back in a minute. And now, the patriotic short.
It was the pre-dawn hours on the Anzio beaches, and because he stood 6'7" tall, the young Army private was ordered first off his landing craft to help determine the water depth for the other men of the 3rd Infantry Division. His name was James Ornis, and shortly after making it ashore, he was riddled with German machine gun fire, his right leg nearly blown off. Ornis would spend the next 18 months learning how to walk again. Upon returning stateside, his younger brother Peter Graves, also a World War II vet, convinced him to go to Hollywood and give acting a try. Now known as James Arness, he scored bit parts until landing the role of Marshal Matt Dillon on the TV show Gunsmoke, thanks to some help from his good friend John Wayne. Gunsmoke would enjoy an amazing 20-year run in primetime thanks to Arness's earnest portrayal of the forthright lawman. Jimmy never spoke of his war heroism and never complained of the constant pain, said Graves. All he ever said was that it was an honor to serve his country.
And that was the patriotic short. Back in a minute. And now, it's time to get motivated.
Most of the time, we don't have someone there to keep us in line, to make us do push-ups and give us a good, swift kick in the ass when we slack off. What we have to do is we have to be our own sergeant, to hold the highest standards and allow no slack.
Your problem is you start something, you stop it. You start something, you stop it. You feel good, you do it. You don't feel good, you quit. People who do stuff consistently and on time, they surpass people who talented and gifted. Stop waiting for something to move you and move yourself. You're your biggest problem. Everything is external that moves you. Now I want you to start moving yourself internally. I want you to be able to push your buttons and not let anything else push your buttons. You gotta move you. Every single day. If you get to a point in your day and you down and out, if you get to a point in your day and you exhausted, you get to a point in your day and you're not feeling it, you can stop right there and change the mood. Nobody control your mood. You control your mood. You control your feelings.
I don't care how small it is. I don't care how minuscule the movement is, but make movement. Move forward and do that every single day, no matter what, including today. You aren't getting any closer to your 5-year plan or your 3-year plan or your 7-year plan or any plan that you've got unless you get up and start getting after it today.
I woke up one day and stopped making excuses. I woke up one day and stopped playing the blame game. I woke up one day and looked at the man in the mirror and was like, yo, bro, what are you doing? Wake up. It's showtime. Let's go. Get up. Go to class. Get up. Do your homework. Work on your gift. It was given to you, but you got to hone it.
When you want to become a diamond, your whole attitude change, your whole mindset, your thinking, your relationships, the decisions that you make, how you spend your time, your energy, all of it changes. See, this is something that you can't be in this business. This business has to be in you.
You take advantage of this opportunity. You let everything else go. You eat different. You study different. You practice different.
It's one thing to talk about your destiny. It's one thing to dream about your destiny. But it's another thing to wake up when you know you're supposed to wake up, to say no to that party, saying no to quitting when you still got 100 more shots to make, saying no when your boss said stop, but you put in 50 more push-ups. You can't just talk about it. You gotta be about it.
Yep, it's tough. It's hard. I'm not telling you it's gonna be easy to grind, but I can tell you this. It will be worth the sacrifice if you can grind your way through it.
And that was Motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, meditation. And that was a little bit of meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the Daily Stoic.
Different way to pray. Try praying differently and see what happens. Instead of asking for a way to sleep with her, try asking for a way to stop desiring to sleep with her. Instead of a way to get rid of him, try asking for a way to not crave his demise. Instead of a way not to lose my child, try asking for a way to lose my fear of it. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, 9.40.6. Prayer has a religious connotation, but in life we all find ourselves hoping and asking for things. In a tough situation, we might silently ask for help, or after a tough break, for a second chance from above. During a sports game, we might sit on the edge of our seat wishing for some outcome. Come on, come on, come on, we say. Please. Even if it is to no one in particular, we're still praying. Yet it's so revealing in these moments when we're privately, powerfully yearning for something, just how nakedly selfish our requests usually are. We want divine intervention so that our lives will magically be easier. But what about asking for fortitude and strength so you can do what you need to do? What if you sought clarity on what you do control, what is already within your power? You might find your prayers have already been answered.
And that was the Daily Stoic. And now, His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron.
What do we see when we see Jesus nailed to the cross? We see our own sin. I know. We're tempted, because our culture teaches us this all the time. We're tempted to say, hey, I'm basically okay. You're basically okay. Don't let anyone tell you got any problems. We're all basically fine. What do we see on that cross, therefore? We see all the forms of human resistance to Christ. Yes, cruelty, hatred, violence, stupidity, injustice. Our own self-absorption, self-protection, running away, denying, betraying. All of that is made visible on the cross. Whenever we're tempted to say, I'm okay and you're okay, all we need to do is hold up the cross of Jesus and we see our own sin. We see as though in a spiritual mirror.
And that was His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, gaslighting. Narcissists are like toddlers. They are unstable and know exactly how far to push you to lose your sanity before reverting back to a lovable individual. This is manipulation. And that was gaslighting. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Faux Maria and Stu.
And we don't want to overlook the fact that one of the reasons why gasoline prices are so low is because the economy is slowing down, not only in the United States, but
you had to bring it down, didn't you? You had to do that. You're right. But also, too, I think at least it's good that, I think what's nice to see is that even if people are worried about tariffs or whatever their issues are right now, and they're scaling back their spending, they're driving and they're getting out there and they're seeing family and friends and they're going to celebrate.
Yes, to a point. I'm going to continue the theme of being negative here. That stat that we release at every single holiday, this is going to be a year that the most people drive, the most people travel. Have you noticed it happens every single holiday, like last Thanksgiving? More people travel this Thanksgiving are expected to. This Christmas, it happens every year. Why? I have I think it's because the population's increasing. And that number is always going to go up, no matter the weather, no matter gas prices, no matter rain, sleet, alien invasion. That number is always going to go up. Thoughts, Shelf?
And Todd's going to get the Nobel Prize in economics.
Yes, because I figured it out. The population's growing.
And you're so right.
Yeah.
Well done, Todd.
Todd, I think you have a future. John, you do.
In what?
No, I will say, though, I was looking at the... Okay, just to pick up on your Debbie Downer point, consumer sentiment is near record low.
Yeah, it's incredibly low.
What I'm saying, I'm taking this as a win this weekend.
Yeah, I would still, enjoy the weekend while it lasts. We still have jobs out there. We don't have high unemployment, not yet. But that low level of consumer sentiment is worth watching.
John Lonsky, Todd Pyro, it's great to have you guys here. All right, Varney and Company is up now. Stuart, good morning.
Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, everyone. A tariff bombshell hits Apple. President Trump says there will be a 25% tariff on iPhones not made in America. Can't be made in India, can't be made in China, can't be any place except America, and Apple will pay that tariff. There's another dramatic tariff announcement, too. The president on Truth Social says negotiations with the Europeans are going nowhere. He is therefore recommending a straight 50% tariff on the European Union, starting June the 1st. The news arrived about 90 minutes ago, and stocks started falling. Look at Apple to start with. Way below $200 a share. You're looking at $194, down $6. That's 3.3% lower. The whole market is selling off. The Dow, and remember please that Apple is a Dow stock, looking for a loss of maybe 550 points at the opening bell, 87 down for the S&P, and the Nasdaq 400 points lower. That is a close to 2% loss.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt here real quick and say, again, remind myself and everybody else that's listening that the markets they're not autonomous. They don't act on their own. They're made to do what they do, and they're made to do what they do by people like Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan is one of the big investment banks. They deal in millions and millions of shares of stocks. If the markets are dropping, it's because he is selling stock. And if I have a 401k that includes a lot of stock, he's killing my 401k. So it's on Jamie Dimon. So Stu Stewart or Stu Hewart or Hugh Varney or whatever the hell his name is, if he's too stupid to know this, then he should get off the air. Because what he should have said was Jamie Dimon and Company are dumping stock. Because for whatever reason, actually should interview Jamie Dimon and get it straight from his mouth. Why are you selling stock? And I suspect that Jamie Dimon is simply a Trump hater, and that every time he gets an opportunity to embarrass Trump and the Trump administration, he takes it. Back to Varney.
Here's an interesting sidebar. Interest rates are falling significantly. The yield on the 10-year, well, it was well below 4.5%. It's come back up a bit, 4.5% almost on the bottom. The 2-year, well below 4%, down to 3.92. Bitcoin retreating, now looking at $108,000 a coin. Well, that's the financial markets. There is other news. The president moves forcefully against Harvard. The university has refused to comply with new rules to curb anti-Semitism, so the enrollment of international students will be halted. Roughly 1/4 of Harvard students are from overseas. Harvard says they're going to sue. The alleged shooter in the killing of a young couple in D.C. may face the death penalty. Hamas faces destruction. That's my opinion. Israel is committed to running them out of Gaza. Trump is running them out of America. On the show today, the president is about to expand the availability of nuclear power. He's speeding up the permitting process. The big, beautiful bill opened up more financing for nuclear facilities. That's another setback for renewables. Energy Secretary Chris Wright will join us just minutes from now. In the House, James Comer wants to investigate Biden's doctors. Did they cover up his decline to the detriment of national security? And a 3-day weekend is almost upon us. Good news, as flying gets more difficult, drivers will see the lowest gas prices in years, and the Varney team gets a break from the hectic pace of news. But hold on, it starts all over again real soon. It is Friday, May 23rd, 2020.
And that's Varney and Company, preceded by Faux Maria. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Candace, because a woman with big boobs that speaks French is so hot.
Après, quand vous aurez compris que vous êtes que de passage, qu'on est dans une matrice sur Terre, que c'est que des tests de là-haut et qu'on finit bouffé par des vers, vous ne serez pas occupé à savoir qui est de quelle religion ou autre. Donc moi, je n'irai pas en enfer pour choisir un camp. Moi, je choisis de suivre ce que le Créateur a décidé de faire. C'est-à-dire qu'il a dit qu'il faut aimer son prochain comme soi-même. Donc, choisissez des camps, faites ce que vous voulez. J'ai envie de vous dire, moi, je serai paradisio, on va dire. Pourquoi ? Parce que toute ma vie, j'ai prôné la paix, l'amour et la sagesse pour rallier des communautés sur l'amour. Parce que Dieu, il a créé l'être humain par amour, tout simplement. Il a créé le monde par amour. Donc moi, je vais suivre ce que le Créateur m'a dit de faire, parce que je suis l'œil de la connaissance. C'est pas pour rien que j'ai tous ces dons exceptionnels. Parce qu'il les donne pas à n'importe qui. Donc voilà, qui m'aime me suivre. Moi, je ne fais que suivre ce que le Créateur a dit depuis des milliers d'années. Et celui qui a envie...
And that was Candace. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now from a book that's called Good Inside. What's the opposite of understanding? For this argument's sake, it's convincing. Convincing is the attempt to prove a singular reality, to prove that only one thing is true. Convincing is an attempt to be right, and as a result make the other person wrong. It rests on the assumption that there's only one correct viewpoint. And then my question is this supposed to be convincing? Further, convincing has one goal in mind, being right. And here's the unfortunate consequence of being right. The other person feels unseen and unheard, at which point most people become infuriated and combative, because it feels as if the other person does not accept your realness or worth. Feeling unseen and unheard makes connection impossible. Understanding two things are true and convincing one thing is true are diametrically opposed ways of approaching other people, so a powerful first step in any interaction is to notice which mode you're in. When you're in one thing is true mode, you're judgmental of and reactive to someone else's experience because it feels like an assault on your own truth. As a result, you will seek to prove your own point of view, which in turn makes the other person defensive because they need to uphold the realness of their experience. In one thing is true mode, exchanges escalate quickly. Each person thinks they're arguing about the content of the conversation when in fact they're trying to defend that they are a real, worthy person with a real, truthful experience. And again, is this convincing? Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, what does the phrase, if you're explaining, you're losing, mean? This was said by Ronald Reagan, speaking of political campaigns. From the perspective of your audience, if you have to explain yourself, you come off looking desperate to convince. As a consequence, you lose the high ground. From a more philosophical perspective, if you have a clear conscience and strong conviction towards the positions you take, your values, truth, and direction, you don't need the opinions or consent of others. As a consequence, you don't need to explain yourself. However, if you yourself are not convinced of the validity and truth of your position, or you can't fully justify your choices, then you continue to expel words in an attempt to create the illusion of certainty. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, some headlines of articles in PJ Media. Trump USDA Secretary commits to terminate CCP gain of function partnership, which has to do with COVID. And most of the COVID stuff leaves me cold. It's gone. It's dead. The only thing of the COVID era that concerns me is how many states were willing to turn or allow their governors to become dictators. In the state of California, apparently somebody passed a law that allowed the legislature to cede its authorities and responsibilities to the governor and turn him into a de facto dictator whenever they want, basically. And that apparently the American people, or the people of the state of California, the residents, have no say in the matter. And that's wrong. That law is unconstitutional on its face. It should be destroyed, and we should remain a democracy, for lack of a better term, a democratic republic in California. We should still have representative government. Let's put it that way. Then the morning briefing, here's hoping Trump crushes the Intifada and its enablers in academia, by Stephen Cruiser. I'm all for that. I like the idea. I hope that, but he does do that, but I don't think he's going to, at least not in the near future, because the way to crush these folks is simply to apply the law. That when I was growing up, I was told that my rights end where your rights begin. And so I can't use my right to speak to shout you down. I can't use my right to move about to block you from moving about. And that's what we see on college campuses now, is people that are using their rights to block other people's rights. You can't do that. That's a civil rights violation. And if and when the Department of Justice starts getting around to prosecuting people for violations of other people's civil rights, it's going to keep happening. So I hope that Trump does that, because I'm convinced that will put an end to this nonsense. But so far, it doesn't look like he's going to. Next one giant leap for global biomedical totalitarianism. I don't know. I have no idea on that one. Benjamin Barty. The View from the Bottom, How ABC's Harpies Drowned Out the Last Shred of Civility, by David Manny, and shows a picture of the Nazis on The View. Last one is Trump's kneecapping of Harvard may be my favorite thing in the history of Trump, and that's from Stephen Cruiser, and I agree with that. There's times when I hope that Harvard goes bankrupt and simply disappears from the face of the earth. Because I'm just so disgusted with them. And what's most disgusting about Harvard and everybody in the Democrat Party is the fact that they all have, for whatever reason, decided that the best thing that they can do is to refuse to ever admit that they are wrong. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now we're going to pick up where we left off with the marketing of evil.
Chapter 3. Killer culture. Who's selling sex and rebellion to your children? They want to be cool. They are impressionable. And they have the cash. They are corporate America's $150 billion dream. That's the opening statement in PBS's stunning 2001 Frontline documentary, The Merchants of Cool, narrated by media critic Douglas Rushkoff. What emerges in the following 60 minutes is a scandalous portrait of how major corporations, Viacom, Disney, AOL, Time Warner, and others, study America's children like laboratory rats in order to sell them billions of dollars in merchandise by tempting, degrading, and corrupting them. Think that's a bit of an overstatement? It's an understatement. Here's how NYU communications professor Mark Crispin Miller put it. When you've got a few gigantic transnational corporations, each one loaded down with debt, competing madly for as much shelf space and brain space as they can take, they're going to do whatever they think works the fastest and with the most people, which means that they will drag standards down. Let's see how far down. According to Rushkoff, today 5 enormous companies are responsible for selling nearly all of youth culture. These are the true merchants of cool. Rupert Murdoch's News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Universal Vivendi, and AOL Time Warner. His documentary demonstrates how big corporations literally send spies to infiltrate young people's social settings to gather intelligence on what they can induce these children to buy next. University of Illinois communications professor Robert McChesney reveals in the documentary, the entertainment companies, which are a handful of massive conglomerates that own 4 of the 5 music companies that sell 90% of the music in the United States, those same companies also own all the film studios, all the major TV networks, all the TV stations pretty much in the 10 largest markets. They own all or part of every single commercial cable channel. They look at the teen market as part of this massive empire that they're colonizing. You should look at it like the British Empire or the French Empire in the 19th century. Teens are like Africa. You know, that's this range that they're going to take over. And their weaponry are films, music, books, CDs, internet access, clothing, amusement parks, sports teams. That's all this weaponry they have to make money off of this market. What about MTV, the cable channel that positions itself as champion of today's teens and preteens? Champions of their music, their rebellious free spirit, and their genuine, if ever-changing notions of what is cool. Whatever else MTV might be, at least it's interested in kids, right? Sure, just like the lion is interested in the gazelle. Everything on MTV is a commercial, explains McChesney. That's all that MTV is. Sometimes it's an explicit advertisement paid for by a company to sell a product. Sometimes it's going to be a video for a music company there to sell music. Sometimes it's going to be the set that's filled with trendy clothes and stuff there to sell a look that will include products on that set. But everything is an infomercial. There is no non-commercial part of MTV. They hold focus groups. They send out culture spies to pretend to befriend and care about teens so they can study them. What they like, don't like, what's in, what's out, what's cool, and what's no longer cool. They engage in buzz marketing, where undercover agents talk up a new product. They hire shills to interact with young people in internet chat rooms, and they engage street snitches to loudly talk up a band or other product to raise interest. In other words, they bring the entire machinery of modern market research and consumer psychology to bear on studying this gold mine of a market to anticipate the next and always weirder and more shocking incarnation of cool. This would be bad enough if corporate America were just following and marketing the basest instincts of confused, unsupervised teenagers. But they are not following. They are leading, downward. Exhibits A and B, the MOOC and the midriff, 2 creations of this corporate youth marketing consortium. The MOOC is a marketing caricature of the wild, uninhibited, outrageous, and amoral male sex maniac. Take Howard Stern, says Rushkoff. Perhaps the original and still king of all MOOCs. Look how Viacom leverages him across their properties. He is syndicated on 50 of Viacom's Infinity radio stations. His weekly TV show is broadcast on Viacom's CBS. His #1 best-selling autobiography was published by Viacom's Simon & Schuster, then released as a major motion picture by Viacom's Paramount Pictures, grossing $40 million domestically and millions more on videos sold at Viacom's Blockbuster Video. Rushkoff adds, there is no MOOC in nature. He is a creation designed to capitalize on the testosterone-driven madness of adolescence. He grabs them below the belt and then reaches for their wallets. A great deal of MTV's programming features and markets to the MOOC in America's boys. For instance, a major venue of the MOOC is professional wrestling, one of the most watched types of television among adolescent boys in America today. Girls, says Rushkoff, get dragged down there right along with boys. The media machine has spit out a second caricature. The midriff is no more true to life than the mook. If he is arrested in adolescence, she is prematurely adult. If he doesn't care what people think of him, she is consumed by appearances. If his thing is crudeness, hers is sex. And what is the purpose of these debauched role models for America's future, fashioned out of market research compiled by culture spies hired by corporations to predict what the next likely step down will be for the MTV generation? Why, to sell kids more stuff, of course. As NYU's Crispin Miller explains, the MTV machine doesn't listen to the young so it can make the young happier. The MTV machine tunes in so it can figure out how to pitch what Viacom has to sell. And how do they manage to bond kids, imprint them with the next round of musical, clothing, and lifestyle choices they should be buying? Rushkoff explains, kids are invited to participate in sexual contests on stage, or are followed by MTV cameras through their week of debauchery. Sure, some kids have always acted wild, but never have these antics been so celebrated on TV. Who is mirroring whom? Real life and TV life have begun to blur. Is the media really reflecting the world of kids, or is it the other way around? Then the really devilish part of the marketer's modus operandi comes into view, as host Rushkoff relives his own epiphany. He says, "I'll never forget the moment that 13-year-old Barbara and her friends spotted our film crew during a party between their auditions. They appeared to be dancing for us, for our camera, as if to sell back to us, the media, what we had sold to them. And that's when it hit me. It's a giant feedback loop. The media watches kids and then sells them an image of themselves. Then kids watch those images and aspire to be that mook or midriff in the TV set. And the media is there watching them do that in order to craft new images for them, and so on. Oh, but don't bother trying to tell your kids about this fiendish game. You see, says Crispin Miller, it's part of the official rock video worldview. It's part of the official advertising worldview that your parents are creeps, teachers are nerds and idiots, authority figures are laughable. Nobody can really understand kids except the corporate sponsor. Okay, you may be thinking, so is that it? America's teens are in the grip of a malignant marketing campaign by big, greedy, uncaring corporations, and hopefully the kids will grow out of it and become normal someday? End of story? Not quite. There's a lot more going on with today's youth culture than youthful rebellion and soulless corporate marketing. Remember how Sodom and Gomorrah were portrayed in the classic biblical epic films of the 1950s? Drunken men with multiple piercings and bright red robes, one loose woman under each arm, cavorting in orgiastic revelry against the background of annoying mosquito-like music, maybe a bone through the nose as well. Hollywood took pains to depict these lost souls in the most debauched manner, to justify their subsequent destruction with fire and brimstone as punishment for their great sinfulness. Guess what? Those Hollywood depictions don't even begin to capture the shocking reality of what is going on today in America. First of all, there's sex. Very simply, there seem to be neither boundaries nor taboos anymore when it comes to sex. Anything goes, from heterosexual to homosexual to bi, trans, poly, and you don't want to know sexual experiences. Sex has become a ubiquitous, cheap, meaningless quest for ever greater thrills. What about body piercing? It has progressed from traditional earrings for females to earrings for males, to multiple piercings for both males and females in literally every part of the body. The tongue, nose, eyebrows, lips, cheeks, navel, breasts, private parts. Again, things you probably don't even want to know. It's the same progression to extremes with tattooing. But why stop with conventional piercing and tattooing? Ritual scarification and 3D art implants are big. So are genital beading, stretching and cutting, transdermal implants, tooth art, and facial sculpture. How about tongue splitting? How about branding? How about amputations? That's right, amputations. Some people find these activities a real turn-on. There are no bounds, no lower limits. Whatever you can imagine, even for a second, in the darkest recesses of your mind. Know that someone somewhere is doing it, praising it, and drawing others into it via the internet. Strangest of all is the fact that any behavior, any belief, no matter how insane, is rationalized so it sounds reasonable, even spiritual. Even Satanism can be made to sound enlightened, of course, only in a perverse way. But if you are sufficiently confused, rebellious, and full of rage, if you have been set up by cruelty or hypocrisy or both to rebel against everything good, the forbidden starts to be mysteriously attractive. Let's pick just one of these bizarre behaviors. How about hanging by your skin from hooks? It's called suspension. In any other context, this would be considered a gruesome torture, but to many people who frequent suspension parties, it's a spiritual experience. Consider carefully what Body Modification E-Zine, the web's premier site for body modification, says about suspension. It says, the act of suspension is hanging the human body from, or partially from, hooks pierced through the flesh in various places around the body. There are many different reasons to suspend, from pure adrenaline or endorphin rush, to conquering one's fears, to trying to reach a new level of spiritual consciousness, and everything in between. In general, people suspend to attain some sort of experience. Some people are seeking the opportunity to discover a deeper sense of themselves and to challenge predetermined belief systems, which may not be true. Some are seeking a rite of passage or a spiritual encounter to let go of the fear of not being whole or complete inside their body. Others are looking for control over their body or seek to prove to themselves that they are more than their bodies or are not their bodies at all. Others simply seek to explore the unknown. Wow. Control over their body, discover a deeper sense of themselves, conquering one's fears. What could be wrong with all that? Suspension's not your thing? How about tongue splitting, literally making yourself look like a human lizard? How could that be a positive spiritual experience? The tongue, explains the BME website, is one of the most immense nervous structures in your body. We have incredibly fine control over it, and we receive massive feedback from it. When you dramatically alter its structure and free yourself of the physical boundaries your biology imposes, in some people, it triggers a larger freeing on a spiritual level. Okay, here's one more experience I'll bet you didn't realize was so uplifting. Getting AIDS. Oh, you haven't heard about bug chasing? Rolling Stone magazine did a controversial expose on this new underground movement. Very simply, bug chasers are people for whom getting infected with the AIDS virus is the ultimate sexual experience. You heard me right. The main focus of their lives is to seek out sexual encounters that will infect them with HIV. No question about it. The forbidden is very attractive. As pop star Britney Spears admitted to an interviewer, when someone tells me not to do something, I do it. That's just my rebellious nature. But why are so many attracted to the forbidden? Why is it so exciting? We in the West are horrified by the death-oriented Islamic jihad subculture. We shake our heads sadly as we contemplate children growing up with a desire, above all else, to martyr themselves, blowing themselves up while killing as many Jews as possible and believing they're going to heaven. These young people, caught up in the rage-fueled global jihad marketing campaign, can look you right in the eye and express with great passion their conviction that committing mass murder is the mystical doorway to eternal life. Yet, in much the same way, bug-chasing men who seek AIDS, people suspending themselves from the ceiling by hooks, those who slice their own tongues in two, and even on a more subtle level, regular people obsessed with the thought of getting their next piercing or tattoo, all feel as though they too are moving not toward death, but toward life and greater spirituality, a more unique and authentic sense of self. Somehow the ritual of pain and mutilation, or, in extreme cases, death, drives out their awareness of inner conflict, replacing it with an illusion of freedom and selfhood. History is full of times and places when something, call it a spirit if you wish, sweeps over a particular society. This something is drawn, as into a vacuum, into societies that have lost their way and have hearkened to the voice of deceitful leaders and philosophies. During the mid-20th century, a malevolent spirit swept over Germany, leading to unspeakable crimes perpetrated against millions of Jews and other undesirables. In the late 70s, the demonic spirit of Marxist cleansing swept through Cambodia like a raging wildfire, resulting in the brutal deaths of perhaps 2 million. And today, we see the worldwide spread of a maniacal jihad suicide cult that is attracting millions of Muslims. But this phenomenon is evident not only in genocidal frenzies. The counterculture revolution of the 1960s was, to many, a spiritual phenomenon with profound reverberations into the present. Likewise, the New Age movement, their preoccupation with channeling and UFOs and other similar movements have an uncanny spiritual religious dimension that can't be ignored. True, mass conformity, even to bizarre beliefs and practices, can be explained somewhat by peer pressure, but there's more to it. It's more like mass hypnosis, where large numbers of people simultaneously adopt the same bizarre mindset, beliefs, and practices. As we have seen, history is full of instances of spiritual possession of a society, of a people made ripe for such a downward transformation by their sins and rebellion against God. Well now, is it just my imagination, or is there something about today's celebratory piercing and tattooing of the body and the free sex that permeates this culture that literally evokes the spirit of Sodom and Gomorrah? It's almost as though the rebellious spirit of reprobate pagan civilizations of the past was being tapped into by today's pop culture. Oh, come on, you might say. They're just adorning the human body to make it more beautiful and unique. Let them have their fun. Who are they hurting? Such reasoning surely sprung up easily into people's minds during the time of Sodom and Gomorrah and other perverse societies. The fact is, what has risen out of the pit in today's world bears a striking resemblance to the ageless spirit of defiant paganism. It's as though there's a spirit now inhabiting millions of people who, by taking drugs, losing themselves in illicit sex, engaging in bodily mutilation and so on, have been freed from the pain of their own conscience. In other words, freed, through rebellion, from God and the divine law written deep down in their own heart. Of course, in a very real sense, they are also victims. They've been set up for all of this. For not only has today's popular culture become toxic virtually without precedent in modern history, but also most parents have not protected their kids from it. In past eras, if parents were very imperfect, even corrupt, children still had a reasonable chance of growing up straight, since the rest of society more or less reflected Judeo-Christian values. The youngster could bond to a teacher, minister, mentor, or organization that could provide some healthy direction and stability. But today, because of the near ubiquitous corruption out there, if parents fail to properly guide and protect their children, the kids get swallowed up whole by the sick culture. Let me make the point this way. Your being any way other than genuinely virtuous, not perfect, mind you, but honestly and diligently seeking to do the right thing at all times, will tend to drive your children crazy. Here's how the craziness unfolds. Children deserve and desperately need firmness, patience, fairness, limits, kindness, insight, and a good, non-hypocritical example. In other words, they need genuine parental love and guidance. If they don't get this, they will resent you. Even if you can't see it, even if they can't see it and deny it, they will resent you for failing to give them real love. And that resentment, which becomes suppressed rage, is a destructive, unpredictable, radioactive foreign element in their makeup, which then turns into every manner of problem, complex, and evil imaginable. It makes children feel compelled to rebel against you and against all authority out of revenge for your having failed them. And it makes everything that's forbidden, from sex to drugs to tongue studs to things worse, seem attractive, like a road to personal freedom. Excuses and philosophies they would have once laughed at as ridiculous now make sense to them. Practices they would have shunned in more innocent times, they now not only embrace, but celebrate. Today's culture is so poisonous that your only hope is to literally create or plug into another culture entirely, a subculture. Just as today's homosexual culture, for example, used to be a miserable subculture lurking in public toilets and seedy clubs, but today has become the sophisticated culture of the beautiful people in Hollywood, so must your true American culture, if it's ever to come back, begin again as a subculture. The best solution I know of for accomplishing this is to homeschool your children and network with other like-minded parents in your area. Trust me, it's already being done. You're not reinventing the wheel. Sports, music, drama, scouts, 4-H, whatever extracurricular activities you want are all available to homeschoolers. You can literally pick and choose the culture in which your children grow up, and you can actively participate in its creation. But what if your children are already caught up in the youth subculture? Is it too late? No, it's not. But it may be a difficult and long road back. It's a lot easier to be corrupted than to become uncorrupted. Just know this. There is something almost magically liberating about confession. For parents to honestly confess their mistakes, regrets, failings, selfishness, and blindness to their errant offspring is a spiritual experience for all involved. Of course, when youngsters have been converted to new loyalties and beliefs maintained by unconscious rage and rebellion, and perhaps the desire for revenge, they may or may not right away want to come back over to your side. But by being truly repentant over your own culpability and their problem, and confessing this openly and genuinely, and from now on being the kind of person you always should have been, you are giving them the best chance possible to forgive you and find redemption themselves. Even if they don't come around, or if it takes a long time, your honest self-examination and confession as a parent will free you from your own guilt and past sins. Beyond this, we need to have faith that with God, all things are possible.
And that was chapter 3 of The Marketing of Evil. How radicals, elitists, and pseudo-experts sell us corruption disguised as what now? Let's see. There we go. Disguised as freedom by David Kaplan, and it's read by David Kaplan. Back in a minute. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.